Charlie Kirk definitely is not a super radical right wing person, but I would say that he's more of the moderate to, kind of extreme right wing. Very, very, I would say, lukewarm, though, in my opinion.
Death was not the correct answer. I'm gonna make that very clear. A person getting shot for what they say is a person who can never change for the better. But I will always speak in opposition to the legacy he left behind. The negative influence he had on the unfortunate, along with his rhetoric and manipulative tactics, will never escape from my mind, especially as a black man. His propensity to encourage hate accelerated political and racial divide in the 2020s. Charlie Kirk wasn't a good man, plain and simple. I was in my 8th period government class when I found out. I took out my phone and it was probably like Rap TV or something, but basically it said something like Charlie Kirk shot and potentially killed at Utah event, and minutes later I ended up literally seeing the video of him getting shot, and it was probably the most dramatic line of events I've ever seen in just like a few seconds. Later that night, my IG page was flooded with stories of my schoolmates giving their condolences, which is completely fine. An individual died after all, you know? But what really stuck out to me were the ones like this one that would claim that he never raised his voice at anyone or interrupted people, or that he was a humble servant of the Lord who was just spreading his religious values. And I think that these ones really highlight the massive culture of hypocrisy regarding his mourning, and that's what this video is going to be about for the most part. At the end of this video, it might make a little more sense why certain communities, especially marginalized ones, feel indifference to the whole situation. I'm not saying that celebration is justified, but indifference can include just openly not giving a fuck. I remember overhearing conversations the next day at school, and a lot of the dialogue fell under the lines of, "It was just his values, bro. It was just for his beliefs, bro. That's so sad. That's so sad." But I feel like what a lot of people don't realize, even the white influencers on social media saying, "You people are monsters for celebrating," they don't realize how big a hand he had in spreading ideas like white supremacy and white replacement theory. This type of rhetoric that he pushed in his lifetime didn't just stop at things like abortion, deportation, and the gays, like stuff that people usually know him for. I legit saw a reel of someone bashing people feeling indifferent to Charlie's passing, but literally admitting that they're genuinely unaware of who he is. People finding about him through the situation, and even casual fans who've only seen his college debates, are likely oblivious to most of the contents of this video. If you're one of those people, I kindly encourage you to watch to the end and hold your comments for that time. Charlie did a good job making sure that his appeals to white replacement theory sounded subtle on the surface level. For this reason, most of his conversations about the topic manifest in him criticizing affirmative action. A lot of influencers in this space will target relatively low-hanging fruit compared to what they really believe. Charlie prided himself and the right as being more tolerant and accepting than the left, often implying that liberals need to play catch up in that department. My point is, Charlie did have some really cunty things to say about black people, but for the sake of his image, he usually leaves his comment sections to do the talking. There are situations where the mask slips, and he more directly implies what he feels about black people, specifically black women, that I'll get to in a minute, but let's get to my main point. Charlie Kirk would often use situations, sometimes involving loss of life, in order to make highly unrelated comments about affirmative action, as well as the competence of black people. I'm going to go through a few situations where he exercised a blatant disregard for the safety and deaths of American citizens, the people he claims to care about the most, in order to make a loose or non-existent correlation to DEI. There may be context in some of these clips where he says the routine, "Oh, I feel bad for the people affected. This is such a tragedy." But no, I believe that making dangerous or tragic situations about an idea so trivial and petty is an act of disregard. Let's set the scene with his general view of black people in aviation.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off. And I feel better now thinking about that.
You want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that
before.
before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
Guys, we're smart. The first guy talking about a pilot with the right stuff and the square jaw, like we all fucking know what doesn't fit that category for him. Let's play a game. I want you to identify all the times these types of people make stand-ins for more extreme ideas and comment your number under the video. Don't count Charlie from this clip though. I mean, at least he has the balls to admit that it's about seeing black people handling the plane he's on. And remember that all of this is disguised as some sort of safety issue. Definitely not racism. It's just pattern recognition, bro. If you believe what they believe, you're free to research the long and arduous process of becoming a commercial pilot, including the cost barrier of even learning how to fly like Cessnas and stuff like that, the building of hours to meet the requirements to even be considered as a hire, and the extensive training and schooling that airlines do, which literally addresses every single performance weakness before even hopping in one of their planes. This conversation is in response to United Airlines taking initiative to increase diversity among their staff. According to Charlie, we're going to go into a little bit more detail about that situation, but here's a clip of him debating with the content creator Simple Black Theory about the subject. I want you to listen out for when he alleges that United Airlines is trying to increase diversity from 4 to 50%.
If you were to board a United Airlines,
I ain't get the finish. Right.
If you were to board a flight with United Airlines, would you rather have a pilot that is qualified or one that is diverse? Answer the question.
Wait, that makes no sense. Why is there two different things? How is it different? When you go to American Airlines...
Because in the pursuit of diversity, you sacrifice excellence every time. We know this with Harvard. Right. We know this with Yale. We know this with the military. Right. Every time, every example that we pursue diversity, an institution becomes less excellent. So it becomes subpar.
When you go on a plane, do you go to the pilot and ask for your credentials? Or do you believe that the airline did the right thing and hired the right? So you ask for their credentials.
Actually, I'm starting to. Hold on. I start to doubt it. That was my statement. That was my statement. Right. My statement was if you're going to go from 4% of the pilots being black to 50% of the pilots to be black, it begs the question, you are going to lower the standards.
I'm not even going to address the part of the sentence where he talks about lowering standards because, again, you can do your own research on how fucking dedicated you have to be to even get something like a private pilot's license. A relatively small step in terms of flying for one of the top commercial airlines. Everyone who gets that type rating got it on merit. Let's instead look at how he represents United's incentive to increase diversity. In that clip, he alleges that United is trying to increase their staff's diversity to 50%, when in reality, there wasn't any direct increase in density of diverse staff mentioned. The 50% was referring to the projection of how many diverse people would be attending the flight school that they were building. You know what? In a way, Charlie was right. The 50% would definitely be unqualified, since they're motherfucking student pilots. Even though what I'm about to say would be irrelevant to him, because he doesn't even get the fact that it was a school right, and second of all, he's dead, but the method that they would use to increase diversity in said school would be to make it less expensive. That's literally it. Now tell me, did you go to a community college to save money? Did you ever take out a scholarship or a grant? Well, sorry to say, you are literally the most unqualified person in your position, according to his standards. This really goes to show how he would mischaracterize situations just to shit on the idea of black people working professional jobs. That's all it is. DEI is literally just his low-hanging fruit to scapegoat his underlying message that if you see a black person working a job that's not entry level, they're not qualified. What we just saw establishes how Charlie is willing to rewrite a whole situation in order to cope with his disapproval of black people in highly technical jobs. When you look up the thing about United and 50%, literally nothing but Aviate Academy comes up. So, pretty big thing to get wrong. On accident.
You really have to wonder, in fact, if we would have said 3 weeks ago, Blake, if we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. We know. We know. It's very obvious to us that you were not smart enough to be able to get in on your own. I couldn't make it on my own, so I needed to take opportunities from someone more deserving. You had to go steal a white person's slot, take opportunities from someone more deserving. You had to go steal a white person's slot, take opportunities from someone more deserving. A white person 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 more deserving.
I would say lukewarm, though, in my opinion.
This is how arrogant Joy Reid and Ketanji Brown Jackson and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee are. They're so narcissistic, they think this is persuasive. Joy Reid is without a doubt the dumbest narcissist on television. And by the way, none of them believe in affirmative action. You're trying to tell me if Sheila Jackson Lee, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard flight 781 with nonstop service from Houston, Texas to Washington Reagan National Airport. I want to tell you that we have Sheila Jackson Lee on board, and in the spirit of affirmative action, we have Ramon and Cadillac are your two pilots. They've never flown before, but they are black. Sheila Jackson Lee would be like, forget it, I'm off this plane. She would jump like, I ain't flying here. They don't believe it. Yeah, Andrew, but Ramon and Cadillac did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, and they're black. Who cares? I don't care the color of the skin of the pilot. I care, are you there because you earned it?
Kirk constantly conflates DEI with letting black people in positions they're not qualified for. Nice black accent, by the way. And when you think about it, he really shouldn't need to spread these misconceptions about race to his larger audience. The facts should speak for themselves, bro. The facts that don't care about your feelings. Here's him making comments about the Washington, D.C. mid-air collision. I'm going to warn the Charlie fans who are watching this video once again. He seems like he cares about the fact that 70 people lost their lives, but expresses it in one of the dumbest ways possible.
About a year ago, I made a lot of news when I warned that when you hire pilots based on criteria that does not matter, you very well might have a slippage in standards and in quality. DEI, affirmative action, disparate impact, all of those together, when you are trying to hire the best, does not allow you to hire the best. When I go to college campuses, it is a major issue that far left-wing activists have a difficulty understanding. They say, but Charlie, the standards are the same. The standards are the same. Maybe, maybe not. News came out this weekend, thanks to the New York Times, that should have been the #1 news story on the planet. Do you notice how quickly the media moved on to the fact that 70 people died? 70 people died in a plane crash? 70, including 12 kids. When a school gets shot up and that tragedy and evil happens and 15 souls are lost, it's nationwide news for a couple weeks. But when there's a plane crash in our nation's capital, it gets out of the news cycle within a week because it doesn't fit the narrative.
What the hell is he talking about? Niggas cannot stop talking about, oh, aviation's becoming less safe. What's happening with all of these planes? Months after that shit happened. He's trying to establish some sort of weird double standard here, and it's weird for a couple reasons. One, it literally trended for weeks, and maybe even months from the point it happened. And also the people talking about how planes were less safe and stuff like that. That was literally the origin of those concerns. Was this fucktard living under a rock? School shootings are literally the ones that get forgotten in a couple days. Maybe unless they have an unusual kill count, but it's usually forgotten way more than the crashes of major US airliners. 2. Assuming he's right, which is impossible to do, I have no idea why he's talking about school shootings getting too much coverage compared to it. I thought that he regarded them as important to the Second Amendment. You know what? I think I do know why he cares about his made-up scenario of the crash leaving the news cycle. He thinks it's an attempt to hide the massive diversity aspect of the crash.
According to the New York Times, the DC plane crash, the woman helicopter pilot ignored multiple warnings from her right seat, her male counterpart, about altitude, and him directly telling her to turn away. And she flew directly into a passenger jet. She was at least 100 feet too high and did not drop elevation when her male co-pilot warned and didn't turn when he warned her.
Shit ton details there weren't even correct if you actually look at the investigation, including the idea that she was the sole cause of the crash, or that the instructor told her to fly away from the plane. In reality, nobody even made a verbal acknowledgement of the CRJ coming at them right before they crashed. But do you see how he made this tragedy into a narrative about male versus female? Do you see how all he had to do to convince his audience that he's not talking about his sexism is to mention that 70 people died and that he feels bad? Like,
pure tunnel vision. This is not him, he's the hero. Go to the woman.
So you are one sick bastard. What the fuck is he even spouting? DEI? DEI? In the fucking army? What does he think they say? Oh, you're a lesbian woman. You can skip boot camp now. He's literally misdefining what DEI is and where it's even applied. And more importantly, he's using it as a scapegoat to be a shithead to women and black people. Oh, I'm sorry. Dead women and black people. Again, people are accusing others who feel indifferent to Charlie's death of being monsters and disrespecting the dead. Here is Charlie literally disrespecting a group of dead army officers based on gender and other bullshit things, and making claims that one was there to begin with just to check off a DEI mark or quota. This is terrible. This is so not Christian.
We are in a state of national mourning, as we should be, and the Democrats, they're so despicable. The Democrats are not lifting a finger to remember the well over 100 people that have died in Texas Hill Country. What you are not being told by the media anywhere is that the death toll likely would not have been as high if it wasn't for DEI. This Texas tragedy is just the latest example. It's not just incompetence. This is DEI working to undermine meritocratic institutions, and more people likely died than otherwise would have because of DEI. Let me prove it to you. In 2014, the Obama administration sued the Austin Fire Department, about 11 years ago, fire union, for supposed racial discrimination, resulting in a settlement. So the Obama administration was so worried that the fire department in Austin, Texas was racist, because, you know, when you're putting out fires, you got to make sure that you have a diverse fighting force. All jokes aside, well, the pressure was on the city to prove its diversity credentials.
So a few years later, they picked Joel Baker as their first black fire chief. He announced right away that promoting diversity is one of his top priorities. They brought him in from Atlanta, and his priority was not putting out fires or being prepared for floods. No, his priority was to make sure that the fire department was blacker.
Guys, it is literally the exact same model, literally the exact same order. He appeals to emotions by acknowledging the loss of life, as if he doesn't even try to hide it. He talks about his little DEI theory in the very next fucking sentence. How do people not see through this, bro? Once again, people died, and Charlie Kirk is here talking about race. And you're about to see how unrelated it really was. What the fuck is it that you want me to do when death comes at his doorstep? It is completely fine to make commentary on factors of an issue or a tragedy, but as you'll see, he's warping and or obscuring details to fit his political and racial narrative. For one, making statements about wanting diversity does not automatically trump striving for excellence and honesty. Let's see what really happened here, because like we've established previously, Charlie obscures the bigger picture. The Austin fire chief, Joel Baker, was being criticized mostly by a man named Bob Nix and his firefighting association for not responding to state requests for assistance in Kerr County before the flooding happened, with him threatening to vote no confidence in Baker at a meeting to get him fired. This was all denied by Baker, who said that he deployed some rescue swimmers to that area. There was a delay in sending more personnel to Kerr County because he was weighing his options between prioritizing Austin and Kerr County, mostly due to almost $1 million that was owed to the department by the state. Baker likely felt that using resources on deployment before they were reimbursed would leave limited resources left for normal emergency responses in Austin after the flood. It does seem like it was a lot more of a nuanced situation than people like Charlie Kirk made it out to be. But the fire department did end up aiding to the flood, with the mayor of Austin acknowledging the chief's efforts. I think there were multiple lines of failure, like poor flood infrastructure in Kerr County, as well as the way finances are handled by the government. But Charlie only labeled one, the black one. Even saying that Charlie labeled one depends on whether or not you think Baker even made the wrong call. And the claim that he was hired based on diversity is absolutely ridiculous. While he himself did discuss improving diversity as a goal, there's literally no evidence that he was put in to meet a quota. Actually, Charlie makes it seem like he was some type of drastic pick, when in reality, he was picked from a pool of other strong candidates back in 2018. It's funny because Charlie makes him out to be some sort of unqualified newbie to firefighting, when he literally had nearly 40 years of experience. You can also see his credentials here. The time he started firefighting was many years before Charlie Kirk was even fucking born. Regardless, this is beyond disrespecting the dead. I don't give a fuck. He did not give two shits about those Camp Mystic kids. His very first idea was to literally fabricate a narrative that a black guy fucked it all up, and suggested that he was some unintelligent nobody who didn't understand his own actions as a fire chief, all the while denying the incentive that racism needs to be removed from workplaces. This is the magic of persuasion, guys. And y'all thought he was just sharing some traditional values in Christianity? A lot of people thought that, without having any specific knowledge on him, which is why a bunch of certain non-ass-wiping, tap-water-drinking people want to fucking take to social media talking about some, if you're happy or apathetic about what happened to Charlie, you're a monster. You don't know what...
Any of you motherfuckers that know me know I have absolutely no political affiliation. Honestly, I feel like every single one of the politician is a fucking crook. So let me start there. What I'm about to say ain't got a motherfucking thing to do about politics. We all know Charlie Kirk was just shot and killed. If you are celebrating that, if you are happy about a young daughter and a young wife losing their father and their husband based off of political beliefs, you are a piece of fucking shit. You've already lost the argument. The minute you say, yeah, he was shot, but I'm already done listening to you. It don't matter. I don't care if they voted for this person. I don't care if they voted for this person. If your argument to me is, yeah, he was shot, but fuck you. And honestly, if you're following me and celebrating a man being shot based off of his beliefs, if you're happy a daughter lost her father or a wife lost her husband, fuck you. The unfollow button is real easy to find. This ain't got shit to do with politics. This has got to do with what's right and what's fucking wrong. And what happened to that man, which his daughter and wife probably witnessed, was fucking wrong. Period. I don't care if you're left. I don't care if you're on the right. I don't care if you're up. I don't care if you're down. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're gay, if you're straight. It doesn't fucking matter. It's fucking wrong. Period.
Guys, after seeing all my examples so far, do you think of him as a person just sharing his beliefs in Christianity? Or do you think of him as a person who was dishonest about the way he framed certain situations, some of which had people lose their lives to push ideas that white men are being replaced by black people and women? Once again, a very low amount of ideas conceived should actually get you executed. Charlie shouldn't be in that category. He did have potential to change. I'm just a little messed up on all of these white people rewriting the story of a white supremacist, either out of ignorance of what he really stood for or sheer stupidity. I thought we were at least 60 years past that. And for a guy like Big Old Texan Family, who constantly rallies for women in his videos, and has skits about killing rapists and creeps and stuff, which might have to do with all of these people saying he walked out on his wife and daughter. He shouldn't really be talking about respecting this guy.
Like a fraternity guy and a sorority girl at age 19 hooking up, both 5 drinks in at 2 a.m., and all of a sudden she, removes consent. Yeah, that's a murky middle gray area. And excuse me when I say...
She still removed consent, did she not?
Okay, but... Again,
if he continues to go onward with that encounter, then he is sexually assaulting her.
Again, that is such an unfair categorization. It's very case dependent.
Guys, this dude has daughters, and in this rounded debate he did with me, he openly said that if his daughter was ever assaulted and became pregnant as a product of that assault, he would make her have that baby as a minor. And he literally can't even define sexual assault. It's not no murky ground. If you remove consent, it is... This is not a murky ground. This is not a difficult concept to understand. If you have consent and that consent is removed and you continue to have sex with someone without their consent, that's assault. You have committed an act of rape. And I think the reason why Charlie Kirk can't understand it is because Charlie Kirk genuinely does not believe that women deserve the right to give and then refuse to consent to men. Honestly, I just don't think Charlie has any respect for women on a general basis, point blank, period. He does not respect women. What? What? Aren't you supposed to be the party of family values? Ugh. This shit got me mad. I rebuke thee from my spirit. Ugh, you're supposed to be a Christian? Disgusting.
It was just his political opinion. Is getting weaker by the day, it seems. Alright, so here's the deal. I took a break from writing the script at this very point, alright, when I was talking about Big Old Texan Family. You can't believe what just happened. So, for some background on what I'm about to say, Big Old Texan Family is an Instagrammer or TikToker or whatever who does a bunch of performative ally content for old cougars mostly. The thing is, none of these women notice how performative he's being when he makes his content. So you just see comments talking about, oh, I was abused in this way. I was SA'd at this age. Thank you for this. He's made little skits about sounding a guy's car alarm to lure them outside, and the theoretical guy is described in the caption like abusive daughter's wife, small dick commenter or something like that, who threatened him or something, etc. He also made these videos where you can use the audio if you're stuck in an Uber with like a creepy guy or a creepy looking guy. So I was sitting and eating dinner and saw that like 10 to 15 minutes prior, he had posted this. And like the funniest thing happened, bro. All of the women who resonated with his content suddenly realized that it was all a ruse, making comments talking about all the misogynistic and rapey things Charlie said, and that they were all in confusion as big old Texan family's whole gimmick was about protecting women.
How do I get rid of a guy? Do I tell him that I went home?
Yes, we're your friends. And we're your friends. Listen forever, and we're just, oh my god, come hang out with us.
Okay, so what's your name?
My name's Ashley.
Lexi.
Where have you worked for?
Ashley, Lexi. Huh?
What do you do? Well, tell us about you.
Okay, so.
Yes, we have another day of multiple queens. Listen here, these ladies are in the bathroom. I'm assuming it's at a bar, club, something. Lady rushes into the bathroom. Can you help me? Can you pretend you know me? Not only did these badass queens say, oh, we got you, they wanted details. They, within seconds, had formulated a complete friendship as if they had been together for motherfucking years. They were going to ensure that the creep did not get his creep on. She was in the fold at that moment, and that was amazing. This right here, ladies, this right here is why I do what I do. I fucking love the love that women will have to protect each other from someone who they deem a threat. It's beautiful. It's honestly a beautiful thing to watch. And for that, for you ladies being the baddies that you are, y'all are our queens of the motherfucking day. If anyone knows these ladies, please tag them. Guys, when you send me videos, try to send me links to their socials so I can tag them in it, if possible. If not, I understand. But just food for thought. But if you know these ladies or you know their socials, please tag them. Let them know we think they're badass. Great job, ladies, for your being queens of the day. I salute you and I applaud you. Have a great day.
Cringe? Cringe? No. No. Let's not. Let's not. Okay. A lot of them even said that they were unfollowing. Also, the most he had said before regarding this topic was like, he was still a human being, respect people's deaths, but this new post had sort of like a bootlicking tone to the caption, like, people realized that he was a full-on supporter of Charlie Kirk. And the thing is, this guy, big old Texan family, was dead ass in my queue of videos to write. The only reason I had him in this video was because it was an example of one of those, you guys are monsters, people that I knew about and had access to because I followed him to keep up with his bullshit. It's a very entertaining page, by the way. Like, he's really trying to make up for wherever he did to his family in the past. Like, he beat me to his exposure, all because of Charlie Kirk. Like, Charlie's ruining everything at this point, guys. Like, that's another reason why you shouldn't support him. He ended up deleting it, by the way. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting development. It seems like some of these women aren't putting up with Charlie's legacy bullshit. They seem to know, like, at least a little bit of the stuff he said about, like, consent and stuff like that. And, like, his daughter, like, how he would, like, make his daughter deliver the baby, keep the baby if she... I don't even want to describe it. But, bro, like, some of the comments were whipping his ass, dude. Something that I think is interesting about Charlie's death is the response that it got from President Donald Trump. Of course, Charlie played a big role in Trump's voter turnout, so they have a relatively good relationship. But it surprised me when he made an entire White House video dedicated to his death. You can find the video on pretty much all Trump's social medias. And please, feel free to count all of the wonderful things he says about Charlie that are debunked in this video. A few things that I noticed was how Trump made him out to be just some guy who went to colleges and encouraged common sense and was a martyr of truth. No, brother. He had a show, he spewed white replacement theory talking points, he constantly lied and warped details of situations, regardless of whether it had loss of life or not. He held a very big lack of respect when talking about members of the US Army. His short-term goal in the least was political division through mass deception. I don't know about you guys, but in my opinion, this kind of worked because now we have a shit ton of influencers, particularly white influencers, making comments about telling you how you should feel after his death without even being aware of the true legacy he left behind. I believe that his long-term goal was much worse. A society where marginalized people don't even get a chance. And he had full potential to reach that goal with collaboration with the most important executive power. They were friends, guys, okay? Look at how easily he appointed Elon to a government role. Talk about DEI, right? I'll give you something to... Alright. I'm even about to describe how Charlie got a government send-off. What he says about wanting things to be based on merit is a scapegoat. Wake the fuck up. He had to fabricate situations and misdefine DEI to even imply that black people are having it too good. The fact that he had to lie implies that black people aren't having it too easy, and he just strives for a society where we're even worse off than we already are right now. A little later after his death, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom and had his body flown out by a military plane. This move was criticized by many who called it a stark contrast to the response to a Minnesota state representative, Melissa Hortman. She was assassinated almost exactly 3 months prior to now by a man known as Vance Luther Bolter. Since Trump himself went ahead and assumed the political leaning of the Kirk shooter and proceeded to blame half of the country, I'm going to put it out there that the Hortman killer was known as conservative by others in his life. He also served at a church where he would take a mission trip to Africa and complain about how other churches in America don't understand the evils of abortion, likely an indicator of his strong political leaning. I saw a reel recently about an air traffic controller who gave a special call to Air Force 2 in remembrance of Charlie. That kind of saddens me, considering what we just went through about him taking multiple minutes to absolutely sully the names of dead aviation officers involved in the Washington, D.C. mid-air collision based on the most stupid shit, just bullying them in their graves and making it about gender. Again, it's okay to criticize people even after they died. That's what I'm doing. But the final report isn't even out yet, and he's talking about no, that's the hero. Go back to one. Come on, go. Like, what the fuck do you even say to this dude? And you're just straight up coping if you actually believe he's earned anywhere near the respect he's gotten from the US government. I just know that in any other time period, a political provocateur who sinks this low would get ignored by every professional in existence. Now we have the President of the United States addressing him and bitching about the radical left. The radical left. This is the President of the United States of fucking America, dude. Like, what reality are we living in? And then we have people like Asmongold claiming that the only way political violence will sink in for us is if a Democratic representative is killed.
And I think that that's probably what it's going to take for these left-wing people to realize what a bad idea what they've been doing is. Because until it starts happening to them, until they start having people that are their friends or, you know, their, you know, like icons that they look up to, the same way people looked up to Charlie Kirk, you know, until they start seeing those people get killed, I don't think it's really going to be real for them. And unfortunately, I think that's the path that we're headed down.
Yeah, you see, he's saying all this. Unfortunately, I think it's bad. I don't want it to happen. But logically, the person listening is going to say, okay, if the solution is getting the people on the left to wake up, and you're saying that you think the only way they will ever wake up is if this starts happening to them, then if I want to be an activist and actually do something about it, then I should go and wake them up.
The "it's just beliefs" narrative can kill. I am starting to see a society where people forget that their words influence people to do things. Do things. When you say something like that, you are pushing the idea to people you don't even have a clue exists that another assassination will show or fix or straighten out the left. More violence. That is what he insinuated, whether he did it on purpose or not. That is literally the message he gave. And I think that video has like over 1 million views or something. Like, that can't be possible, dude. Like I mentioned before, there are very few people that just die for what they say. Charlie is not one of them. However, it does annoy me how people are coming up with this revelation that freedom of speech is all of a sudden dead. Freedom of speech is established in the Bill of Rights and is an amendment to protect you from government censorship. The doings of some lunatic does not mean freedom of speech is dead or was abridged on, unless Trump was behind it or something like that, or political power. But again, I wouldn't even think that would be the case. I think it mostly covers not being censored by the law as an individual. Not to be rude, but people die all the time for things they say, especially if they live life as a provocateur. With Charlie, that was well within his realm of possibility. If he didn't know this, he wouldn't have bodyguards there. Bodyguards that people are now accusing of giving the shooter the signal. And every single day, I'm seeing a new white person telling me how to feel and how not to feel, or not to draw things from this situation. But that is literally what Charlie would do. If you need just an additional example of this, just 2 hours before the bullet even struck him, he made a post saying that the death of Irina Zaruska, a Ukrainian refugee that was stabbed and killed on a light rail, needs to be politicized, and let the comment section run with their own narratives, including racial ones. Guys, just 2 hours before he was murked, he tried to spark a political conversation about somebody else's murder. But minorities need to be held to a higher standard when discussing his death? Okay. This was the kind of human he was, up to the point he was killed. And I'm going to be honest for a second. Based on his rhetoric that I've shown throughout the video, I have a sneaking suspicion that the politics in question wasn't going to be about the homeless epidemic. Let's be honest. He wouldn't even cover this if the stabber was white. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. And I'm going to go as far to say that his very last words even reflected his general attitude. At the Utah event, he was asked if he knew how many mass shooters there were in America over the last 10 years. He replied with the question, counting or not counting gang violence, before he was assassinated. Again, if you have little knowledge of Charlie, or you're just a casual fan, you'd probably think he meant well with that question. But with the constant appeals to white replacement theory and white supremacy that we explored in this video, the multiple times that he stated that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, I don't know about you, but now All I can hear, instead of counting or not counting gang violence, all I can hear is, don't forget about the blacks. And that was his legacy. He was not a hero for Christ. He was not a guy just sharing his traditional values. He was not edgy nor playful. He did not value the truth. He did not speak about the dead with integrity, how many wanted us to speak regarding his own passing. He did not respect marginalized people, except for ones that were useful for the next story he would use to melt down the salad bowl of American society. He thought of all of us as useful tools to make him and white racists feel more comfortable with their own shortcomings in life. I will not mourn the death of a man who multiple times implied that the civil rights movement made things worse in America and had the widespread audience and political connections to attempt a course correction. If you are a Christian or a traditionalist or anybody part of his target demographic who was a fan of him, that nigga did not represent you or either of those beliefs. He thought of you as so stupid that he could make blatant lies about important situations so you could back his more radical causes. For his entire career, he wanted to make sure that the narrative was spun on the disadvantaged. Constant missed details, constant mistakes in the stories he covered, things that a person in his profession couldn't do often without knowing about it, without trying to imply things that could seem justifiable if only given in tiny bites. Charlie knew what he was doing the entire time. This messy and tangled discourse surrounding his death is what he would have wanted. Just remember, based on how he treated others and their deaths, if Charlie saw Charlie die, he would be fucking evil.
You know what pisses me off? The fact that Charlie Kirk goes to colleges to...